Wake up. Nika's here with your daily neuro nugget. Wake up. Hello, guys. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. It is Monday yet again. Back to it with the neuro nuggets, which I have a lot to say about these so-called journalists. I think that we need higher standards, but for what we call journalists nowadays. I just watched one of the most disturbing videos I have yet watch my entire freaking life about IDAHO4, about Brian KOHBERGER. And I'm going to get into it because Nancy Disgrace is a disgrace, as we all know. We all know her journalism is shoddy at best, right? We know she's gotten older. I am of the opinion that she is financially driven. She doesn't care about moral codes or ethics or truth or honesty. She doesn't care about that, in my opinion. You might think differently, but I don't. Maybe at one point she actually gave a damn, and maybe that's why she got into journalism. But from what I can tell, all that has fallen by the wayside, right? So it's very problematic because we have to remember this is a very big case. It is a DP case, meaning that somebody's life is on the line. And we know now it's 2025, guys. We are so close to the trial. I know it seems still kind of far away. We know it doesn't really start until August, but it's not that far, right? When you really think about it, and you know that we've been here over 2 years already, what is another 6-7 months? It's going to fly by. So it's not that far away. And when you have these so-called journalists, such as Nancy Grace, having other people who call themselves journalists on her channel, on her, what is it? Whatever her news channel is. She had a lady who I've never heard of before. So she calls herself a journalist also. I believe that Caitlin Hornik is most known for actually covering the IDAHO4 from the very brief, 2-second Google search that I did of her. I don't think she was actually well known before then. So maybe I'm wrong, but I have a feeling that a lot of new journalists have talked about the IDAHO4 without looking at all of the data, without doing all of the research, and they're just trying to get clicks, get famous, get money, be like Nancy Grace when they grow up, right? So I'm gonna get into that, guys, and I'm gonna see if the chat is actually working. Can you guys even hear me, by the way? I always forget to check the chat first, which is really what I should be doing, because some of you guys lost your minds. Like, people that never comment were like, oh my God, we can't hear you. Can you guys hear me? And if I sound a little stuffy, it's because I had 20 kids over this weekend. It felt like a lot of kids, and sometimes they carry germs, right? Just family gathering. I feel a little stuffy, and we have I don't know, snow in Chicago. It went from 0 degrees, feeling like 0 degrees, to a toasty 30 degrees today, by the way. So I did not strain this so you guys could see it. I'll try my best to not choke on any of this, but this is my own little, I call it detox tea. I know people hate that word, but I call it a chocolate detox tea, right? And I added some cocoa nibs in here, some cinnamon, some chicory, some roasted carob, some organic ashwagandha, some milk thistle, and some dandelion. So pretty tasty. Oh, if you could smell it. Oh my goodness, I can really smell those cocoa nibs. It's pretty good. Oh my gosh, the chat is working. Who is here? The whole fam here? Hi, Hopper Stoppers, Emily Kate, Aero PMC, Caroline, colds are covered. Hello, everyone. Hot Pie Gravy, hello. Listening on the car ride home. Drive safe. Tess Haynes, hi. I hit my like button. Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you guys for hitting the like button. Hi, Christy. Hello, everybody. Linda, Justice for Kilo, Pumpkin. Dandelion is a little bit bitter, but once you add those cocoa nibs in there and the cinnamon, it definitely cuts through that bitterness, which is why I like mixing it with sweeter herbs, if you will, or sweeter spices, if you will. It's very good. Very, very good. So anyway, I just want to talk very quickly for today. I have to get back to work today, actually by 4. I just wanted to talk about the video and get it off my chest because Nancy Grace and these so-called journalists really just got on my nerves, guys. She's talking about, oh, Brian Kohberger, he needs an actual witness, you know, besides the moon and the stars. You know, allegedly he was out driving from November 12th into the 13th. And we know that the state, for the longest time, has been asking for a witness or for evidence to corroborate where he was at. But again, how many of us drive alone at night? What if there's no cameras? What if we're driving in the middle of nowhere? What if we're driving in a location where there is signal? What do we do then? Most people would probably have a smartphone. Some people don't have smartphones, but yes, that cell phone data could be used to corroborate his story, right? So Nancy Disgrace goes on to say in this video that she thinks that there's going to be no witness at all and that it's actually going to be all cell phone data. And I believe that as well. I don't think there is going to be one person that comes forward. I know in the beginning there was mention of maybe Bethany Funk knowing something or maybe being with Brian Kohberger. It's still possible. I just feel that if that was the case, we probably would have heard something about Bethany despite the gag order, because we know how a lot of things have actually slipped through the cracks, right? So Caitlin Hornik, right? Nancy is asking her questions in this video and she says, isn't it true that Brian Kohberger turned his phone off the night of the murders? This is what she says. Doesn't even think about it. She's like, yes, absolutely. And I'm like, okay, red flag, red flag. I'm red flagging Caitlin Hornik, right? How in the world are you going to be so sure? Again, this is somebody who calls herself a journalist, and it's a problem, guys, when you have somebody who is not involved in the case, in the investigative portion of this case whatsoever, and is out here with Nancy saying, yes, absolutely, he definitely turned his phone off, right? By the way, if you are one of those people, I hope you're not, right? But you have to really learn the ins and outs of this case, right? Because a lot of locals have come forward and said that people often lose connection on these roads, right? It's a pretty empty road. It's a dark road. It's a quiet road. Not a lot of movement through there. And Caitlin Hornik saying, yes, absolutely, means that she's not even using one neuron whatsoever, right? We know maybe she's lacking some because there are other reasons why somebody would not be connecting to cell towers in the area. And that could be that, again, signal is shoddy. It doesn't necessarily mean that he turned his phone off. But most people, most so-called fake journalists have immediately come to this conclusion, although the evidence and the state has never actually mentioned that Brian Kohberger turned his phone off. People are just assuming that because he did not connect to the cell tower. So it's very problematic, right? And we know, just a reminder of the timeline, around 2:42 a.m. on the early morning hours of November 13 was when his phone pinged at his Pullman apartment, right? And then by 2:47 a.m., Caitlin Hornik and Nancy are saying, well, the phone must be off, right? But it could just be that it's not pinging because of the signal. Again, this is Idaho. And if you look at the area where he stopped pinging, where he was probably driving through, probably a very empty, desolate road, highway. You can Google image this. It's an empty road. Then Nancy points out that at 3:29 a.m., the white sedan passed by the King Road 3 times. Therefore, how is Brian Kohberger going to have the audacity to say that it wasn't him if we have proof on video that a white sedan passed by? And maybe Caitlin Hornik and Nancy Grace are just playing stupid, because we know that the truth doesn't really get views, right? People like to watch things that follow the narrative, which is Bryan Kohberger is guilty no matter what. Again, you can tell that they're not using a single brain cell. I don't know if it's because they don't have any or because they're just choosing not to use them. But a white sedan being on camera does not mean that it was Bryan Kohberger's white Elantra. We know for a fact that there were other white sedans in the area at the same time. In fact, the cop car, the unmarked white sedan that law enforcement was driving, was known. That is a fact, that they were definitely in the area. So we cannot just conclude that it was Bryan's car just because it's a white car on video, right? And then at 4:04 a.m., the white sedan passes again. Reminder again, could it be the cop car, the unmarked cop car that was just a block away or so, a couple blocks away from 1122 King Road while the crime was allegedly taking place? Allegedly, because we know that the timeline is never 100% perfect, right? So is it possible that the crime took place much earlier than we are being told? Just something to think about, guys. Now, at 4:20, the white sedan leaves the area at a high-speed chase, and Nancy's like, he flew like a bat out of hell. She definitely knows how to use her words to sell a story, right? Painting this image of Bryan Kohberger just fleeing, leaving with adrenaline, just exiting the crime scene. But again, that's journalism at its finest, right? It's all about selling views, getting views. It's not about the truth anymore. It's not about justice anymore. So the phone does not ping again until 4:48 a.m. and it pinged south of Moscow on Highway 95. Again, this is an area that is known to lose connection. And there are rumors, and were a lot of rumors early on 4chan, people saying that everybody had lost phone access and internet access in Moscow. I was not able to verify that in the Moscow-Pullman area. I just think that if that is true, it's very, very strange that nobody had access to technology when the crime was taking place. But that would be very convenient, right? Or just very bad luck for Bryan Kohberger. So in this same video that I watched, Nancy Grace also has another so-called journalist. And this is why we have to question everything, right? She has author, professor, he's director of a TV show, Joe Scott. And I'm, again, wondering, questioning everything. Is it possible that Nancy Grace is getting some sort of kickback by having these people? We know that if you have well-known authors and directors of TV shows, a lot of the times that's a way to promote them directly, especially when she's mentioning the shows, when she's mentioning the books. Is she getting kickbacks? Because if she is, I feel like that is something that should be disclosed. Again, as we are YouTubers, guys, we are supposed to disclose if, for example, I don't know, a tea company sends me some tea and I'm getting kickbacks, which I'm not because I make my own teas. We're legally required to disclose that. So I think it's highly unethical that people out here like Nancy Grace could potentially be getting kickbacks from these authors, these professors, these directors of TV shows. Like, I don't know. Do you guys think that that's something that should be disclosed? Because it seems wrong, right? It seems highly unethical. Let's check the chat. Oh yeah, Ashley Banfield, Linda, is another one, right? They are not playing, they're just stupid. Or we also have people who just hear what they want to hear. Again, when they listen to factual information and it does not suit the narrative, they just blatantly ignore it, right? Why? Because they're like, it doesn't fit my story, so let's get rid of it, right? Sleuthy Kitty says, I go hiking every weekend and there are some parts with no reception, pretty common. Exactly. Same. So after this case, it kind of changed my perception of just being out there alone, because even if I have like Strava on, which tracks your movement through GPS, there are some times if you're going through forest preserves where you do lose signal and you do lose tracking. So is it possible that because all of us out here are hiking where there may be no signal, and if we're doing this alone, are we going to be charged for something that we didn't do maybe? We see how easy it can be to frame somebody, right? Caroline, a car doesn't even have to be involved in this crime, period. It actually wouldn't matter if Kohberger was in the area. It wouldn't. It shouldn't, but it does, right? Again, we know that once police zones in on a person of interest, that's all that they're going to be looking at. And I have to wonder, is it possible that Kohberger was in the beginning trying to be helpful? Did he maybe go to Moscow PD and say, oh, I have a white vehicle, I was in the area and I saw something, or I didn't see something? This is a problem with trying to be helpful these days, right? When you're trying to help law enforcement, just don't try to help them. We know that everything you say will be used against you. And I just have an inkling that he went in there with an intention of, I'm going to help them, I'm going to do the right thing. And you know what? All that law enforcement had to know was that Brian Kohberger has a white car. Guess what? There's a white car that is also in the footage, and that he was alone. That's all the cops have to know to frame you. Whether they did it willingly or not, a lot of cases where people have been innocent and they have been framed willingly or not, this is what happens. The person went in with the intention of trying to be helpful. Never be helpful to the cops. I don't care if they're here to protect us. At the end of the day, their job is to close a case, right? We know that they get a lot of pressure from politicians to close these cases, especially in a town like Moscow where, I don't know, 80% of the revenue is coming from the university. You need to make the students and the parents of the students feel like everything is cool, everything is safe. Don't worry, this was targeted. Don't worry, we have the guy in jail. Even if he is innocent, right? So, and as I'm scrolling through the comments of that video, I see a comment that I wanted to share with you guys, right? Because this is what people are saying, right? This is what people are saying. By the way, there's 62 people in here. Give it a like. You should be giving it a like, right? Let me know what you think about this type of comment, because this is very scary, problematic. It's very dangerous to be judged by a jury of your peers, because let's be real, a lot of our peers are not very intelligent. A lot of our peers are very close-minded. And you can tell just by the comments alone. This person said, if you're innocent, there's no reason to turn off your phone. If you're just going for a drive, Brian is guilty. He is a psychopath. I'm like, I don't know how else to call this besides, this is low IQ behavior, honey. Whoever wrote that, you know who you are if you type that up. That's extremely low IQ behavior. The fact that they are so quickly jumping to conclusions and saying that he turned his phone off, again, there are other reasons why a phone would not ping. You have to take them into account. You can't just assume out of all 3, 4 potential reasons that it's that one that he willingly turned off his phone, especially when we know that this is a DP case. You can't just assume things, right? You have to remember there are other reasons why this could have happened. And he's saying he's a psychopath. I'm like, I'm sorry, but I have a master's degree. Again, 4.0. Yes, I'm bragging. Even myself with a master's degree in psychology, I still don't have the ability, and it would be unethical for me to say that Brian Kohberger is psychopathic, is sociopathic. Why? Because I'm not reading him fully, right? We don't know anything about this case. We know what little we have seen in the documents, and what we have seen in the PCA, in the affidavit, is also very questionable, because there were so many mistakes, written mistakes, a lot of questionable things by Mary and Payne, that we have to just question everything, right? Until everything comes out at trial, we can't believe that this guy is an incel psychopath that willingly turned his phone off. And it's worrisome to me that most people jump to that conclusion. They're like, well, that's what makes the most sense. Does it though? Because once you start analyzing all the data, I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. Hi, Rex Roswell. Happy New York. Oh, Happy New York. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Most of the people are guilters. It's sad, but it's true. Yeah, and that's with anything, right? Like they're always gonna follow the narrative. So, aren't you cold wearing short sleeves? I mean, it's kind of hot inside my house. I know I normally wear my coat, but I will probably put my jacket on when I go outside. Latte, walking right now in Ada County and have awful reception. It is terrible everywhere but Boise. And honestly, I live right downtown, guys, right downtown Chicago. You'd be surprised how many times I lose signal downtown Chicago. Like, why am I losing signal? There's literally cell towers everywhere. How is it even possible for me to lose signal? I have no idea. But it happens. And I have family that lives in very desolate areas outside of the state, like in Minnesota, for example. Like Minnesota, to me, it reminds me, some parts of Minnesota remind me of Moscow, Idaho, or Pullman, Washington. Like long winding roads, a lot of nature, not a lot of cell towers. And for those of you who believe cell tower data, go back and watch my old videos where I really broke it down, because there was a story of a woman who got in a car accident, right? And you know how your car will contact the insurance and try to get you help when you crashed. So this lady was really unable to speak because the car accident was so bad that they pinged her through the cell tower data, and the cops and ambulance, firemen ended up going 60 miles away because her phone pinged 60 miles away from where the accident took place. So it actually made it very dangerous for her, because in that time she could have lost her life. The fact that it pinged that far away, the fact that cell tower data can be that inaccurate, 60 miles, is a huge freaking difference. So is it possible that even though Brian KOHBERGER's phone had pinged south of Moscow on Highway 95 at basically 5 a.m., was he even there? Or did it just connect to some random tower? Because we know that this has happened times before. So just something to keep in mind. Just because you ping your tower doesn't mean it's pinging to the closest tower. It could be just the emptiest tower, right? If one tower is full of data already, it might ping to the next one, which could be, I don't know, 60 to 80 miles away, I believe, is the furthest that they'll usually ping. Sloth pajamas. Happy New York. That was funny. I don't miss Chicago winters. Yeah, me either. But here we are. 5G. Minnesota is out there, land of 10,000 lakes. Yeah. I'm so late. I'd be replay crew afterwards. Sorry, guys. I have a piece of tea in my mouth, so it's hard to talk. It's because I didn't strain it. People who know so little are the first to opine. Exactly. The dumber they are, the louder they are. Such a valid point, says Amanda. I watch a lot of Night Watch with EMS, fire, police. Why the dispatcher always asked, still with technology, the address. Yeah, because if you go by cell tower data, it can be wrong. A lot of the times it can be wrong. Marion, well, Marion Payne calling themselves affidavits is peak comedy. Like watching two people cosplay is legal documents and forgetting they're supposed to come with facts. Bro, like this guy's in charge of the investigation. And again, you guys know I didn't want to talk smack about Payne because, you know, he's a veteran, he's a brother, you know, but we still have to call him out. I've gotten a lot of shit from people saying, you should be defending him, you know, he's a veteran like you should be standing up for your brothers. I'm like, no, ma'am, sir. We're gonna stand up for the people who are honest, not for people who are effing lying, screwing up investigations, and then getting on the stand and saying, I don't know where anything is at. I have to call them out. That's our duty as my, you know, fellow Americans. We should call them out. I don't care if you're a veteran. I don't care if you're a cop. I don't care if you're an FBI agent. If you're dirty, we're going to call you what you are, right? That's how we get better as a society. We can't let these people with badges. And again, I had my own badges as I was military. I had my own medals, whatever, my own rank. It doesn't matter. That is one thing that can be very hard for neurotypicals to understand. I know that some of you might be new here, but I have shared before, I am neurodivergent, which means for me, I have ADD and I have high IQ at the same time. For me, that's very difficult because most neurotypicals, meaning normal people, have this, they understand hierarchy, right? They understand levels like ranks. Most neurodivergents, whether they are dyslexic or ADD or autistic, don't understand. We don't care. Maybe we understand it, we just don't care about ranks. You could be, I don't know, a super top secret sergeant. I don't care. You could be the president of the United States. You could be the president of the world. We don't care. We see people as they are across the board, and we're only going to judge you by your actions. And here we have two shitty cops with two shitty actions, right? So nobody stood up for Brent. Who didn't stand up for Brent? I stood up for Brent. I did. I don't know if you're new to my channel, but maybe you could go watch those older videos. If law enforcement is involved, maybe it's one of those we investigated ourselves and found no wrongdoing situations. Classic plot twist in the bureaucratic drama series. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, that has actually happened before within Moscow Police Department. We know that they are a shitty police department. And look, I know all about crappy police departments. For God's sake, I live in Chicago, okay? It is not good here either, right? But these cops here and in Moscow, and other parts of the country as well, they are known to have these investigations within their own departments, and they're like, oh, we're good. And even when these investigations do bring horrible things up to light, like the cops in Moscow that were trying to have sex with young college girls so that the girls wouldn't have to pay tickets. Okay, this actually happened in Moscow PD. It's like, what is the type of punishment that the cops are getting? Nothing. They get a little slap on the wrist. That is it. They are continuing to police the streets. And I don't know about you, but somebody who is, you know, could have children. I am of the age where I could have children the age of the 4 victims. And I could have children the age of these girls that have been pulled over by these dirty ass cops in Moscow. It's scary to me, right? The fact that you could have a young daughter or even a son who's being pulled over and being SEXUALLY harassed by these MPDs. It's disgusting. It's disturbing. I probably wouldn't be able to sleep. So what are you going to do? We need to hold these people accountable. It doesn't matter if they're veterans, whatever. Caroline says Brent was murdered and I'm highly angry over it. I agree with that as well. I know a lot of people think that that is a conspiracy theory, but that video that was released, that portion of the video that was released by the police department was extremely suspicious in my opinion. So what are those cops doing over there? Rasputin, guns have their own language in US. I mean, I have weapons as well, and I'm comfortable with them. I'm good at using them. This is not about that, right? This is not about that. This is about dirty cops. Holly Berry, everyone stood up for Brent. We are all incredibly saddened by what was sent to him. Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. I mean, I've seen some hate for Brent, but it's not the majority. Every now and then you'll get a hater who's like, oh, he was a guy with PTSD, but hi, Kim, welcome. Kim Lindsay just logged on. It's very unfortunate what they did to him. Marianne says, being neurodivergent is like having 47 tabs open in your brain, and one of them is playing music, but you cannot find it, and you're really productive anyway. You just described me perfectly. That's why I guess for me, it can be a little difficult to be a YouTuber. I've had successful channels. In the past, I had a channel over 80,000 subscribers, but I don't write. I know a lot of YouTubers like take notes and script everything, and I just flow, and you guys see I don't flow. It's not very flowy. It comes out as it comes out. I don't really care if people judge me. It is what it is, right? I figured if people don't like this, then they can go watch other people. You just have to get the information out there. Brent should have had a psychiatric section offered. Cops need to be trained on how to deal with people who have mental health conditions, because they are not. And there have been so many cases where cops just go in there shooting. They're like, they don't understand people who are deaf. They don't understand people who, are paranoid, who are going through schizophrenia, who have PTSD. They don't understand. And a lot of cops have PTSD themselves. So they're so traumatized by whatever they've seen on the line of duty as cops that their first instinct is to grab that gun and shoot. Like, shoot first, ask later questions. Ask questions later, see? But that's what they're doing. I think they need better training. I think cops need to be trained longer, better. I think that's an area that we really need to put more money into, but being realistic, I know that that's not going to happen. And I think that what took place with Brent Kopaka was that he probably did have PTSD. He probably was suffering. He probably got turned away by the VA, and he was having a mental breakdown, possibly. Cops show up, don't know how to handle that situation, start immediately shooting, right? They need to be taught how to de-escalate these types of situations, right? You can't go in there shooting people who are bipolar or hearing voices or not hearing at all. And there was that case that I talked about over a year ago with the police officer. It was funny to me at the time, but looking back, I'm like, it's a damn shame, right? The cop in Florida, there's an acorn, the acorn's falling from the tree, hits the car and bounces off of the car, tiny acorn, and the cop is like, oh my God. So I have to let you guys go. My husband's here and I have to get to work in 4 minutes. So I'll talk to you guys later. Bye. You want to say hi to him? Do you want to say hi to them?
Hello, YouTube people.